Hi, I am Mia Lamont, your host for the Brand Disruptors podcast. I've been a disruptor all my life, and I'm here to help other women step into their own greatness so that they can get paid to be themselves. I decided to start this podcast because I wanted to show other women how I and women like me took their life's disruptions and changed their lives and the lives of others, not to mention broke the mold in their industries. Look, branding is all about who you are at your core, the person that your soul is calling you to be. So get ready to step into your power, own your authenticity, and show up like the boss that you are. If you enjoy all aspects of personal development, you are in the right place. Let's get started. Hello, hello, hello.
Hi, how are you?
Oh, I can't hear you because I don't have my headphones in.
Uh-oh. Check, 1, 2. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you, and everybody can see you too. So,
Okay. Hi, everyone.
yes, look. I don't know how to get us out of here, so we're just gonna be in here
Okay, that's fine.
until we finish the presentation. So, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes.
I am excited to be here on Day of Disruption.
That's right, Disruptors Day. Like, I wanted to do this because I think that a lot of people want to be disruptors, but they don't really know how to do it. Mm-hmm. Or they want to change the status quo or some element of their life, right?
Right.
And having some people to inspire them to do so is always helpful. Yeah. So thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me. I feel very grateful for this.
Awesome.
And I'm excited.
So why don't you tell the audience a little bit about who you are, and then I'll get into why I decided to ask you to do this.
Okay. Well, my name is Tiffani Staten. I am an author and a storyteller, and I have always had an active imagination. And recently, last year, I wrote a children's book about self-acceptance called You're Gonna Like Me, Grumble Grumble. And it follows the story of this young being who moves to a new town, goes to a new school, and he sticks out like a sore thumb. And so he has to navigate this new world.
So the reason why I asked you, and I don't even know if you know this, but the reason why I asked you to be a part of today is because I feel like a lot of people struggle with self-acceptance. And it comes from this deeply rooted space of not belonging. Like, most of us didn't belong where we were, just as Grumble Grumble doesn't, right? Or is that
Ernest Floofer, but you can call him Grumble Grumble. It's fine.
Ernest Floofer. I forgot his last name was Floofer because I thought that was so cute, right? So Ernest is the outsider, right? Yes. He doesn't belong. He doesn't look like everyone else. He's not like everyone else. Mm-hmm. And I believe that the world has gotten to a place that it's okay not to be like everybody else, because none of us are the same. Exactly. And it's because of your own personal experience that you decided to write this book, right? Mm-hmm. And that's the reason why I asked you to do this, because I want to present for you and for, the people who are present for them, that self-acceptance happens within, right? Mm-hmm. But also you get to do something about it. Exactly. So you did something about it. You wrote a book about the pain that you experience, and now it's part of your brand, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Absolutely. So let's talk about that.
So my story is probably similar to a lot of people watching right now. I grew up in suburbs of North Carolina. I mean, not North Carolina. That's where I live now. Oh my gosh. New Jersey. And we lived in a very nice neighborhood, but my brother and I were oftentimes the only Black students in our class. And to paint a picture, in my freshman year of high school, there were only 15 Black students in a school of about 1,500 students. So from a very young age, I would say from first grade on, I could tell that I looked different, and I never really felt that I belonged anywhere. I always felt like they were looking at me differently. They thought I was, not human sometimes. I had to deal with racism and microaggressions and all of that stuff, not just from students, but also from teachers as well. Mm-hmm. And so I grew up with crippling social anxiety, super, super shy, but I was always creative. And at a very young age, around 3 years old, I started reading and I was able to escape into these worlds. And so because I was shy, I would look at other people and I would make up stories. I still love people watching. And I would say, okay, this is their life. This is the type of personality they are. And those were my friends in my head. And so as I got older, the anxiety carried with me. I always felt kind of less than or other in almost every situation I was in, whether it was at work, either I wasn't fly enough. When I worked at BET, I felt like I was a nerd, against all these other people. Even with friend circles or business circles, it's like, okay, I'm this artsy person and everybody's so polished and this, and I would change myself to fit into each group. So if I was with the corporate set, I would try to make sure I had my suits and I was very polished and I spoke the lingo and everything instead of just being myself, and I was miserable. So fast forward to 2020, and I was diagnosed with early stage breast cancer. And that just kind of took the wind out of my sails, and I had to deal with my self-esteem. And I started going down this journey of who am I? What do I want? What's been going on with my life? Am I really happy? And I realized I wasn't. I realized I was exhausted and I was unhappy. I wasn't doing the things that fulfilled me. So Ernest came about while I was recovering and thinking about little Tiffani and how I navigated school. And so Ernest really is me. He's just a hairy being from a made up land. But I really want children to gravitate to this character and see themselves in it. So,
yeah, I mean, like, how much different would our lives have been if we had a story like this to help us understand that we are different, but also like to help us accept ourselves first and then have others accept us as well?
exactly.
How much different would life have been for you?
My life would have been completely different. I was always the one that stayed back, and I wouldn't volunteer, raise my hand. Even when you asked me to do this, I hesitated because I was like, "Oh, I'm not really into public speaking, and I just want to do my creative thing." And that's it. But I wanted to come out of my comfort zone. So I wish I had something like that when I was a kid. And that's what made me and prompted me to publish the book, because I wasn't going to. I was just like, okay, I wrote a story. But then I started thinking about there's other little Tiffanis out there. There's other children who are struggling with this. And I really want to get it in their hands so that they know that, hey, I'm okay. I'm
Absolutely
perfect the way I am.
Absolutely. So that's going to take us back to one of the things that you said earlier. Like when you worked at BET, you thought you weren't fly enough. And when you worked for another corporation, you didn't think you were polished or professional enough. I believe that most of us have experienced this, right? Even now, sometimes, especially like when I'm with my other image consultant colleagues, I definitely get in my shit, right? I'm like, is this going to be enough for X? And what I realized this year is like, it's enough because I say it's enough.
Exactly.
Right? I walk into it with the confidence that I know what I'm doing. I've done this work, and yeah, it is enough. And I'm going to walk in with Mia fully present. So when we get to do that, when we finally get to that point in our lives, life gets a lot easier. So I want to talk a little bit about that, because I believe that, well, I want to talk a lot about it, because I think that for you, for me, for anybody else that's listening, we believe we have to be someone else, right? Or I even heard you say, when I was at BET, I was a nerd, right? But at BET must have needed your skill set. Yeah, so let's talk about that.
Well, I would say I am a reformed, people-pleasing perfectionist, imposter caught in the comparison trap.
Oh, say that
I know
again.
that's a
I love
lot.
it. It is. It is. But say it. Yeah.
I am a reformed, people-pleasing, perfectionist, imposter, stuck and trapped in the comparison trap.
Ooh, I feel that. I feel that for you, but I also feel it for like many women who are struggling with that, right? We want to get out of that loop.
Yes. It's exhausting.
It is exhausting.
It's exhausting. And then you look up. For me, I looked up and I was like, I don't really know myself. Who am I? You know, all this time I've been playing these different roles and different parts, trying to anticipate what other people expected of me, even down to my job. It's like, okay, I'm in the tech space. I have to be this way. Oh, I'm the only Black woman here, so I have to make sure that I nail it every time, and I'm on every time, and I'm working from 7:00 in the morning until 8:00 at night, and all those different things, because that's what I thought, and that's the pressure that I put on myself. But again, it's exhausting, and I'm finally like, I don't have it. I don't have the energy for that. I want to do the things that I want to do that bless other people.
Oh, okay. I want to do the things that I want to do that bless other people. Yeah, that's the key. That's the key right there. It's absolutely the most freeing thing,
Yes.
right? And it's absolutely Tiffani living from her soul.
Yes.
And I know that sometimes this stuff sounds very woo-woo or very spiritually led, but guess what? We are human beings, right?
First.
We're human beings first, and we're beings having a spiritual experience. And if y'all haven't gotten that yet, like that's the basic part of this. So Tiff, so you came to this realization that I'm doing all of these things and I'm unhappy. Yes. And I'm exhausted. Then what?
Therapy. I found a really good therapist, and we dug in from childhood to now. Even now, I just had a session and she's like, okay, I feel like you're kind of going a little off track. Let's explore this. Okay. And so the moments when I have I fall back into old patterns, she's there to help me steer me back to like, no, this isn't Tiffani. This is old, young Tiffani. This is people-pleasing Tiffani. You need to get out of that. And so with therapy, that's how I was able to really dig into little Tiffani and do this book. And so it's an everyday journey. I'm always discovering. I'm always trying to like, okay, remember your purpose. Remember what you said you wanted to do, and then working on that. So,
yeah. So finding your soul purpose through therapy. So thanks for the transparency, because a lot of people, I believe, like in the entrepreneurial space or even on social media, they want, like, there's this depiction or this assumption that they got their shit together. Like everything is perfect in their lives because they have this perfect post. The picture looks amazing. Like even somebody might even think that about, oh, Mia's in Mexico, that must be amazing. And yeah, you don't know the backstory. You don't know what it took to get here. You don't know the struggles that I've had. Like I will speak to some of them. I'm pretty transparent about that. But also, like I believe that we all get to be transparent to a point to where we're comfortable, because that's going to help someone else who's going through the same thing, right?
Exactly. And I don't think there's any shame in therapy, especially, and I started therapy really when my mom passed away when I was in my 20s. And from there, I've just continued on. I mean, it's always been different things I've focused on, but I think transparency is very important because it leads to authenticity, right? So yeah, I'm an open book.
Yeah, and I think that you can't help people, because what you said was bless other people. You can't bless other people if you're not sharing your truth.
Right.
Right. And as an entrepreneur, I believe that it's important to share your truth to the level of comfort that you have. Some people are an open book, right? Some people will share everything down to things that others might not want to know about. But it has to be your comfort level, and everything that we're learning today, everything that I talk to my clients about, and you got to put that stuff through your own filter, right? And the filter is more about not where are you coming from a place of fear, but like who do you want to become?
Right.
Which is why you showed up today.
I did, even though I did it scared.
Yeah, and I talked about that earlier, right? So Tiffani, you're only going to grow when you do the things that you're scared to do, when you're ready to get out of the comfort zone. So tell the audience what that feels like. Like how, like right now, you're disrupting a pattern of yours, the pattern of hiding or wanting to work behind the scenes or not putting yourself out there. So why did you make that decision?
Because actually, when I published the book, I had all these different thoughts even before it was out. Like, oh my gosh, nobody's going to like it. It's not good. It's this, it's that, it's other. Maybe I shouldn't do it. Where am I going to find an illustrator? Like all those things, right? And once it came out and the feedback that I got from it, I was like, that wasn't as bad as I thought. As a matter of fact, it's better than I thought it was going to be. And this journey has been amazing. And so once I realized that it was all in my head, that I was making up these scenarios, and that's what was keeping me from growth and moving to the next level, I was like, okay, she asked me to do it. I'm going to say yes. Now, I'm not going to lie and say that I was like, okay, I'm ready. Because there were times where I had little meltdowns here and there. But I'm here.
And we all have meltdowns. Like,
right.
And this is what I want people to get. Like, totally understand that it is okay for you to be scared. It is okay for you to not want to do certain things, but you get to do them anyway, right? If you want to grow, you get to do them anyway, and you get better the more that you do it.
And that was the most freeing, I think, that it didn't have to be perfect. That I didn't have to come in here, prim and proper and not stumble over my words and this, that, and not show that I'm nervous. None of that. Like,
and you don't even seem nervous to me.
Oh, really?
You don't even seem nervous to me.
Well, that's because I'm talking to you.
Right, and that's the other part, right? It's also about asking for what you want.
Right.
Do you want to share a little bit about that?
So me and I met a couple of weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I was like, okay, are we still doing this? And she looked at me. She gave me the look like, I know what you're trying to do, and I'm not going to let you. And she was like, yep, we're still on. I was like, okay. Well, I'm nervous, and I don't really know what I'm going to talk about, and this, that, and the other, and blah, 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 blah. And then she asked me, I think she sensed that I was spiraling a little bit. And she asked me if I wanted her to interview me.
And she said yes.
And I said yes.
Yeah. So she was open enough to be vulnerable enough about the fact that she was nervous. And yeah, I did sense that she could use some support. And I'm happy to I wanted to support her because I wanted her to get her message out there. Right. I wanted the audience to get to see Tiffani. And that wasn't going to happen if I didn't do the support, right? If I didn't support you. And I wanted to honor you as a person.
Right.
Right. And ease you into this. Some people are ready to jump in, but Rebecca even says, like, she used to have such presentation anxiety. This woman is doing, she is always having a reel or a video going just about every day. But she used to have presentation anxiety. So I want you guys to know, like, you can go slow, right? You can ease yourself into this, but you got to start. You got to start. Because if Tiffani would not have, let me see, how did I know that Tiffani had, okay. So I was doing a project with Tiffani and her husband, and Tiffani actually shared on one of our post calls about the book, right? She shared about the book, and if she wouldn't have been vulnerable about that, I would not have gone to her book signing. I would not have purchased any of her books, and we would not be here today, right? I had heard of Tiffani because I knew her husband first, but never did, and we had a conversation, but never did I know what she was up to until we had that conversation, right. Until we had the strategic, the call, right? I wouldn't have known any of these things. So this is actually proving my point even more. Like, you cannot get people to know who you are if you're not willing to put yourself out there.
And ask for help. That's for me.
Ooh,
I never asked for help. I would suffer, I would struggle, or I would give up, because I was like, I'm just not going to ask anybody. I'm not going to be vulnerable enough to say, I don't know this and I need help. So now I can't do this by myself. I could write the book, but I needed somebody to edit it. I needed somebody who could draw. I can draw, but I can't illustrate a book. So I had to find something like that. I need marketing, branding, PR, all of that. I can't do that all on my own. And when I have tried before, I have burned myself out because I was trying to do all the things.
Yes. So let's talk about that, right? Because I believe, especially if a person is a solopreneur, they believe that they have to learn or have to know how to do it all. And when we can really tap into what our zone of genius is, which is getting to know yourself really well, we get to farm out that other stuff, right? Because tell me, like, the anxiety, because I've experienced it myself, like the anxiety that comes with trying to do things that you really don't know how to do or isn't part of your skill set.
It's frustrating and it's overwhelming. And then for me, I started to feel stupid. I'm like, I don't know what this is. I don't know what to do. Am I doing this right? And so it limits you when you try to do everything sometimes, especially like you focus on the things that you're good at and then farm out the rest.
Yeah, because what's going to happen is when you're trying to do, let's just say social media marketing. Like, I know a lot of people who try to do this on their own. And for me, when I first started, I tried to do these, I tried to create those cute posts. Mm-hmm. I didn't even know what material, I didn't even know what software to use in order to do that, right? I had no clue, didn't want to ask anybody because I didn't want to seem stupid. Mm-hmm. Like, you should know this, That was way more frustrating than actually being able to put all of my thoughts into some document and giving the document to someone else to create the post, to create the things, to create a campaign, or to even help me figure out what a campaign was going to look like, right? So if you're out there trying to do your social media post by yourself and you don't really know what you're doing, like, give yourself a break. No. Because what you alluded to, Tiffani, is that you get frustrated and then you don't do the stuff that you like to do, right? Or that you're really good at.
Because and you waste time doing stuff you don't. Yeah, you waste time. Why did I waste? I forget what I was trying to do, and it took me days to figure out how to do it. It was like years ago. I think I was trying to put together a website or something, and it took me forever to just figure out basic stuff. And then I got frustrated with myself because I was like, okay, this is ridiculous. And finally, I was like, let me call my friend, my designer friend, and see if they can do this for me. Yeah. Some money and see if they could do it. Because I can't, even my website today, I had so much on my plate. I had to ask a friend because, yes, I do know how to build a website, but I didn't have the time. I don't have the time. So let me ask my friend to do it.
And it's not in your zone of genius. You might know how to do it, right? Just like I know how to go into Canva and create a post, but it takes me an hour, where it's going to take someone who's very, very fluent in Canva 2 seconds. Right. Mm-hmm. I want to go back to something that you said earlier about being a Black woman in the tech space. Mm-hmm. And how when we look at the tech industry, it's usually a certain set of people. They usually look a certain kind of way. And what even drew you into being into the tech space, right? Like, as a creative. And then also, like, if you were to give someone like a tip of being in a place where you're the odd man out, but you absolutely belong there. Like, let's talk about that.
I would say that I accidentally got into the tech space. I needed a job. I was in between jobs and this post came up. I thought it was semi-creative from the description, only to find out that it was more technical than anything. And from there, I just started to grow up the ladder in the company. And I realized that I don't have to be an engineer. I don't have to be necessarily tech savvy to an extent. But what I do bring to the table is my creativity and my project management skills. So that's what I brought to the department, and they saw that and they recognized it. And then here we are moving up. I'm not going to say that half the time when I have meetings with engineers, I know what they're talking about, but I am able to say, hey, I need you to break it down in layman's terms because I don't know what that means, and not feel stupid about it. Because I used to feel like I can't say I don't know, because how is that going to look? Again, the only Black woman, and then one of the few women at the time. So they're going to look at me, or they're going to mansplain, or they're going to this, that, and the other. And then once I freed myself to say, it's okay not to know. They know that you're not an engineer.
Yeah.
It's okay. And most of the time, this conversation that you have in your head, it's not even how it is. So once I was like, okay, I'm not even going to listen to that, to they, to they and them. I'm just going to ask it. And I had a bad experience with that.
Yeah, and I think what I'm hearing from you is that it's okay not to know all the answers. And the folks that you think that are judging you, they know you don't have the answers either. Like they know you're not an engineer. They know your skill set, right? And appreciate the skill set that you have. And because of it, you're able to be more comfortable in that space. Right. So being transparent about, I don't know the answer, and this is what I can bring to the table.
And asking again for help. Some things I'm like, I really would like to learn what this means. Can you point me in the direction of where I can get that information? Yes. And keep it moving and learn and do what you need to do.
Absolutely. So, all right, we're approaching the end of our time. I want to ask you, like, what over the last 5 years, what would you say was the biggest disruption that happened for you and your biggest lesson from it?
Breast cancer was the biggest in the last 5 years. Breast cancer was the biggest disruptor because it forces you to do some self-reflection. And it was because of that was the catalyst that brought me here. And so the biggest lesson was feel the fear, but do it anyway. And keep on trucking, and then enjoy the blessings.
Yeah, because someone could look at that situation as not a blessing, right? As a curse, or something like. And that's what I was talking about earlier. When mindset. I finally get gratitude, though. I finally get it, and being grateful for the bad things that have happened. But oh my God, like you have a better understanding of yourself now. You put a book out. You published a children's book. Like a lot of people can't say that, right? So knowing yourself and really like getting into this place of being blessed, and like that's awesome. So using that disruption to propel you forward instead of take you down. Exactly.
So that I can help other people, whether it's testimony or a story or whatever.
So you can help other people. Did y'all hear that? It's about the service. And if we don't get that, that's what we're here to do, we've already lost. We've already lost the game. Tiffani, you made it.
I made it. I'm not even sweating. What's going on?
You made it. You did an amazing job. And I want to thank you. Thank you for being brave and showing up here and sharing your story with us, because I think that it's so important for people to get that wherever you are in life, whatever you have going on, there's a way for you to get through it. Right? Yes. And there's something on the other side of that if you tap in and listen and take action.
Yes. And thank you for not letting me off the hook and having me here today.
Thanks for listening to the Brand Disruptors podcast. I'm your host, Mia Lamont. And if you like what you just heard, I hope that you will pass along our web address at www.mialamont.com/podcast to your friends and colleagues. And please leave us a positive review on iTunes. Download this episode and any other episode that you found to be helpful. And be sure to check out our previous episodes and join me next time with another edition of the Brand Disruptors podcast.